Hi, Stephanie.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I am so excited to talk to you about your experience working with me. You're a one-on-one client. So I always think that's like such a great experience to share because you know me super well as well as the program. And talking about nervous system reset and some of the work that you've done, just your journey to getting here, and to help other women, if, nothing else, just feel seen and validated in some of the experiences you went through, and also hope, right? That there's stuff on the other side where we can really reclaim our lives and feel like we're in the driver's seat. So, with that, I would love if you could just kick us off with like a little intro about yourself, just kind of, share who you are and that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Stephanie or Steph. I just turned 30 actually. So in the course, I started the course when I was in my late 20s. Um, I feel like most women in this course are probably type A women, as most, are. And so I feel like, my whole life I've just been working, working, working. But not really for me, kind of just
Mm.
stressing out and trying to be better and trying to be good and trying to be worthy and trying to get love and acceptance from other people. And, kind of unfortunately led to a little bit of a crash. And so I did go to school for quite a while. I have a doctorate degree in pharmacy. Um, and so after that, I did a postdoc fellowship. So total, I was in school for about 9 years. So worked really hard, love studying, love learning. With that, my brain is always running, 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 like constantly. And so obviously when we're, life kind of just tends to take over in school, and then after school, really life takes over when you settle down with somebody and maybe they have a family, maybe they don't. And just, wherever you live, maybe you own a house, maybe you don't. I do, I'm lucky in that aspect, but lots of things kind of happen and take over, and then you kind of lose yourself. And so unfortunately that's kind of what happened with me, which is kind of what led me to Kate. um,
You're working with me. Yes, absolutely. There's so much to unpack there. And kind of what you were first speaking to, right, is the fact that a lot of the women who start this work are experiencing that kind of crash and that burnout. And there is that almost societal conditioning, I want to say, like, I'm always like, fight the man, fight capitalism, all that stuff. But there really is this association between our worth, our value, and like our output, right? And we get told over and over, we get rewarded over and over for this. And what happens on the back end when we hit that crash, that burnout, it almost seems like all the people who were like, yeah, like keep doing this, keep going, they kind of lose interest, or you become no longer a cog in the machine. And so you're really stuck with figuring it all out for yourself, right? And that feels super overwhelming. And so, when you reached out for help, it was just so great to be able to give you guidance, support, and validation to start. And then obviously see you just take these practices, take this approach on, which we'll dig into in such a thoughtful and like committed way. But of course, we'll also talk about motivation and how much it's really hard to come out of some of these mindsets. So before we jump into all of that, right, like all the juicy stuff, why don't you just talk to me a little bit about where you kind of were before you joined the program? I know you touched on it with some of that like crash. Maybe speak a little bit more to how that looked in your life. Like, how did that show up in the way you related to yourself, related to others? Just so that we kind of understand, yeah, what it looked like when you were thinking about doing this work.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, absolutely, Kate. And so before I jump into that, I do want to emphasize, really emphasize
Yeah.
the whole what you just said about how women are constantly told like you have to do. Like, I mean, really. And not just like maybe society, but just like, family. Um, Certain like cultures kind of like have that structure, so to speak. And I am Eastern European, and so my family very much is like that too. Or like, the father goes to work and then the mom kind of stays home. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. But in terms of, this whole idea that like you have to keep it together for your family, for your loved ones, and you have to work and you have to take care of the house and other things and, the kids and whatever else that you have to do. And maybe that doesn't, apply to everybody, but just, kind of another perspective of that, like societal, but also like cultural pressure that can come from different places. Um,
Yeah.
and so trying to be aware of that and kind of being like the first step or the first generation there is kind of interesting.
It
Um,
is.
so again, nothing like against, the way my family like raised me or my mom or anything. They're incredible and I love them very much, but definitely felt a lot of pressure, from that side as well as just from like in general, like society. And also you have to be the best in general, whether you're a guy or a girl or whoever. You have to perform. Everything is a
Absolutely.
competition nowadays.
Yeah.
Um, so anyways, to answer your question, I definitely have always had anxiety my entire life, even as a kid. Never actually knew that I had anxiety though, until I was in college in graduate school and the panic attacks started showing up pretty bad. And at one point, I actually just stopped eating um, because I just total like shutdown. I was so nervous. I didn't even want to put food into my body. I
Mhm.
wasn't sleeping well. I could not function. I wasn't showering. I was not taking care of myself at all. I did end up in the hospital. It was not fun at all. After that, I did kind of, slowly tried to work myself out of it, and I
Right.
did. I felt better for a little bit, but then something would happen and I'd kind of like crash again. And so this is almost like a cycle that I kind of like went through, where like the anxiety would really come up, the panic would set in, there would be maybe like a life change or, something that happened, thankfully nothing like catastrophic, right? But even just little things, like moving into a new apartment or, getting into a
Mhm.
fight with my parents or, maybe a bigger one like breaking up with somebody would have just like devastating effects on me. And I would just go into shutdown mode. And the way that it shows up for me is unfortunately panic attacks. Um,
Yep.
and so being just very hyper aware of my environment and little things would set me off. And obviously over time I did kind of get to know like what my triggers were. And
Mhm.
for me, they definitely were like around like social situations. I did not like, being in a crowded restaurant. I didn't like eating with people. I
Yep.
didn't like being in a car.
Yep.
Really did not like being in a car. So those are kind of ways that it really manifested for me is just the panic attacks. And if anyone has had a panic attack, it is not fun. Like it is just not fun. Like you just feel like, I mean, you quite frankly feel like you're gonna die, but nothing is necessarily wrong, right? And
Mhm.
unfortunately, if you're around like the wrong people when it happens and you don't have the support, then it makes it worse. So then you fear that it's going to happen again, and then you are afraid of the fear, and it just keeps reinforcing itself. And so
Oh,
when I first met Kate, I was incredibly afraid of just everything. I was afraid of the fear. And I was having panic attacks every single day. Yeah.
every single day, every single day. And I'm so excited for you to talk about where you are now with those things, but because it's like such a beautiful transformation. But you speak to such an important, well, a couple important things, right? The cycle, because what can really happen is that we almost kind of eventually repress, or really what we see it as now is dissociate from these experiences of high anxiety. And we think, oh, I'm getting better. And then they keep coming up, they keep coming up. And our anxiety also shifts. So, for a year, it's like getting in a car, and then it's getting on a plane, and then it's
Yep.
being with, people in social situations. And then sometimes it's all of the above. And so we just see these transformations, but we try to convince ourselves that we've gotten better, we've pulled out, et cetera, because like it's so scary to think that we haven't, especially when we don't have a roadmap, right? And that's what we really see when it becomes a cyclical pattern, is that we've learned to dissociate, to shut down, to numb, and then we repress those feelings further. And I think a really big learning piece or experience for you, and you tell me if I'm right, but I remember us speaking about this, was that like panic attacks didn't mean something was wrong with you. It meant that your system was working exactly how it was designed, based on experiences you had had, based on fears that you had. And that didn't mean that we didn't want to resolve them, because it was such a strong survival reaction. But a lot of your change, I feel, came in when you were able to apply a level of like understanding of your nervous system and self-compassion, to know that this wasn't you being over dramatic. This wasn't you like choosing this. And also that there is the ability to actually move through this with a level of understanding instead of always trying to fight it away, right? And can maybe you speak a little bit more to how your relationship with panic attacks changed um, over time, or just as you kind of progress through some of the program?
Yeah. And actually, you already touched on a big one. And the biggest one is that there is nothing fucking wrong with me.
Yep,
And so that's like the biggest thing that Kate will like, and Kate and like everybody in her program um will kind of like impart to you is that like no matter what you're going through, whether it's panic attacks, anger, I don't even know, however other ways that like nervous system dysregulation shows up, like there is nothing wrong with you. Um
true.
at first, again, I was blaming myself, and unfortunately a lot of my loved ones also blamed me too, which definitely did not help in my healing, right?
Of course.
Everybody needs a support system, and I love that Kate and her team were able to do that with me. Um, but yeah, at first, I mean, just uh, angry, right? Like I'm mad at myself. Like, why is this happening? Why am I doing this? I should be better. I should be stronger. Like, oh, I'm just so weak, like
Mm,
lots of negative self-talk. Um, did not feel like I was worthy of love, like did not feel like I was worthy of resting and feeling good, like always feeling like it was me, like I somehow caused this, that this was my fault, and that this is my fault essentially. So now like I will say I honestly don't even know when the last time I had a panic attack was. And I love saying this too, like I've said this on a couple of other like group calls and stuff, but like I feel like those people who are like trying to get sober and they're like, oh, well, I've been this many days without a drink or drugs or whatever, or tobacco, whatever the thing is. I'm
yeah.
like, I've been now 15 days. I've now been 30 days. I've now been several months since a panic attack, and it is incredible. It's
And I'm
incredible.
so fucking proud of you. Like it's such a it's so gorgeous after because you had done so much stuff, right? You are not somebody who had just like never addressed their health before, right? You had done all different types of things, right? And you
Oh
had
my
never done
gosh.
nervous system specific work. And so for you to go from literal daily panic attacks and being like unable to actually put yourself in certain situations to I think two things, right? The panic attacks subsiding, which is massive. But also, not only were you able to put yourself in situations that maybe you had anxiety about before, but you were also able to decide if you just didn't want to be in those situations. Like what I saw from you was this incredible, like dependence on self, like deep self trust, like we were talking about, where you just became fearless in your boundaries and being like, I'm going to do what's right for me. And so it doesn't surprise me at all that the panic attacks went away. But to get to that place where we can even allow ourselves to do that, because you're talking about coming from feeling like you have no self worth or you don't deserve love or whatever. So, how do you become somebody who is fearless and like, I'm going to stick up for me and set boundaries? Safety, right? And creating safety enough in your system that you can expand to a deep feeling that like you are worthy of not being in shitty situations that cause panic attacks, right?
Yes. Yes.
Talk a little bit to that.
Oh my gosh, Kate. Well, I will say that is a loaded question because we could sit here for hours talking about that, right? But again, it kind of goes back to like the previous question of like, I did not trust myself. I didn't trust myself and I didn't like myself. And so unfortunately, that did perpetuate. As you kind of moved, like as I moved through this program, right? Like it I will say doesn't usually just like click all at once. Maybe for some women it does, but it's almost like incremental, like tiny shifts that where in one day you're like, whoa. Like, and
Yes.
that's how it happened for me, like really, truly.
Yeah.
And it's incredible. It's absolutely amazing. So yeah, I mean the biggest thing, the absolute biggest thing that I would love to impart to any woman trying to get into this program or like thinking about this program, not really sure, maybe doubting this program, is that Kate and her team and just this program itself really instills what it means to trust yourself and to love yourself again. It really truly does.
It's so sweet of you to say that because I really say that, like, in some ways, my greatest superpower is my unshakable self-trust, right? Like, used to be somebody who, especially when I was super vulnerable and I was in dorsal vagal shutdown and I was on emergency medical leave, that if you had a higher degree than me, or if you were just somebody who claimed to like be an expert in the space, I was like, great, I'll do whatever you say, because like I just want to feel better. And I think, and God, we could talk about this for hours. Also, I feel like this is more turning into like a podcast episode between you and I, but
Right.
there's so many coaches, experts out there, practitioners that in some ways kind of really take advantage of that. Like they know you're vulnerable. And so they say like, do these things without adapting the practice or tailoring the work to you or going at the pace that you need. And then they dig you further into it. And then they say it's your fault because you didn't want it bad enough or you know, whatever. And I really do think that one thing that resonated with you, that resonates with every client in this program, is how much we are like, you guys are the freaking experts. We are the guides. We can give you practices, somatics. We can take you deeper into soma neuro alignment and like show you what advanced practice looks like so you don't have to live on a daily routine for the rest of your life and, you know, all those things. But I can never know when and how and exactly why your emotional shift's going to happen. I can know it's going to happen, but we have to, as coaches, adapt to our clients' timelines. And if we don't, and if we're not flexible, and if we're not willing to meet them where they're at, well, then we're just taking advantage of them or failing them and then saying, sorry, it's on you, right?
Yes, 100%. So again, probably like most women in this program, they have tried a lot of different things, right? I'm sure probably every single one of us has been to at least 1 to maybe 10 different therapists, right? To start, just for starters. Some of us have tried and been on medication. And again, there is a place for all of this too, right? But it might be the end all be all, especially for women like us who are very like type A and just are in this extreme state of, like you said, shutdown. So I had tried all of that, you know, like try to change diet, like exercise, meditate, breathing. I mean, acupuncture was in there. There's like all sorts of things, right? And again, all those have beautiful places, but they're not the end all be all because, you know, like you just said, Kate, I mean, a lot of these providers, they don't live in your body, they don't live in your head. So like they can, you know, give you the tools, but then, you know, you come back and you're like, I don't know, this doesn't feel right, you know, and then they're like, well, like do this then. And it's kind of again, yet another cycle that just like is a little bit disappointing because it never quite gets you there. But again, the whole point of like this nervous system program with Kate and the Soma Neuro is to trust yourself, to listen to yourself, right? To really get to know yourself, to listen to yourself, and just to trust that, like, you know what's best. Like, your gut truly does know what's best.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. I really feel like we use resistance as data on how we as coaches need to adapt to you guys. And we combine that with teaching you guys essentially self-healing. Like our goal is always that you never need us again, right? Like we're here for you for life. Like we love you guys. And I talk to all my clients like all the time, right? But the thing is, once you have that shift and you understand deeply that you can trust yourself, you will have ups and downs in life because you are human, but you will not get sent into this stuck frozen state again because you've come from a root cause approach, right? And that is body-based and subconscious-based healing. But you've also had an emotional shift towards arguably the most important thing that any person can have, since we are wired towards survival, that I am safe, I am okay, so long as I trust myself.
Yep.
And so long as I hear myself and I listen to my intuition and I trust my body and I don't force myself to do things that feel wrong. And then having the confidence to actually follow through on that, right? And I just
Right.
saw you, you know, so beautifully go from, and you talk about that aha moment, this kind of like, what are we doing here? Like, this is piecemeal. Like, it, you know, in the beginning, it can feel very much like I'm just doing stress management. Like, what the heck, Kate? You promised me like the world. And like, here we are. And then to eventually see it all come together, not only in more advanced, deeper practices, but also, and you see that so much of this work is reinforcement, reinforcement, reinforcement until finally, aha. Like, I love that you and I will stay in touch and catch up. And I also love that you don't need me anymore, right? You can want me all you want and I want you back, but you don't need me.
100%.
That is just, it's unshakable. It's like, that's
Yeah.
how we should be able to show up in our lives. right?
100%, 100%. And one thing again that I kind of, backtracking a little bit, but I love your program because of that, like the one-on-one being with, like being able to chat with you, but also being like flexible, right? Because like again, like the first couple of weeks, like it is a little bit more structured, right? As you're going through like the modules and watching the videos and doing the exercises. But I like Kate, I know you know this, but like I think within the first, I don't know, maybe like 1 to 2 months, right? There was like 2 weeks where I was like, I don't want to do anything. Like I don't
Yeah.
like and you kind of like shifted a little. So like in that one-on-one session, we talked about what was coming up, what was going on, and then shifted like the approach for like the next 2 weeks and what, I wanted to accomplish. And so I love that you are very much, like you make it tailored to the individual. Like this isn't just like like people always say, like sometimes when they go to the doctor's office, like they're a number, not a name. But here you
Yes.
truly, truly are a name, not a number. Like Kate really does make you like you make me feel like I'm special, like you know me. Like I don't even like, I mean, we've only had like a couple 1 hour calls, like one-on-one, but still like I feel like you know me.
Yes.
And I love that you make space for that and like truly, truly make me feel like you care and want to see me succeed.
And I'm so glad you see that because it is so freaking true. Like, I can't even tell you, I abhor these programs that are cookie cutter, one size fits all, as if like 8 weeks, let's go. Like, as if overstimulated, overwhelmed women are going to be like, great, because it's March 1st. Now I'm ready to do the work. Like, this work is meant to cause resistance because it's opening up a bunch of stuff that you haven't wanted to feel for like years, right? And so, anyone in this space who is trying to hold you to a one size fits all approach, I mean, I'm sure they're going to convince you that it was your fault and you failed, but they're failing because it's literally impossible. We all have such unique experiences. Our subconscious has taken in such unique data. I mean, there is absolutely not a single client I have worked with in the program who has gone through it the same. Not single one, right?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
even though we have structure and we have modules and we have a path for you and we tell you how to implement it and everyone gets there, like, man, the stuff that we talk about, we bring in, we adjust, we approach, we whatever, and things that are going on in our clients' lives outside of just this program, right, that
Mhm.
they bring in specifically, like things about relationships or about career or about their children or whatever, that all ties into the nervous system because the nervous system is the foundation of how we show up to those relationships into the world. And so neglecting that or just saying like, okay, cool, like you're dealing with that, but like we're doing this over here is missing an opportunity, which I would say in our program, we really help women to like expand. Like we see women launch businesses, change careers, buy houses, like, get engaged, all the great things you.
Yeah.
I mean, we see these profound shifts that go so much beyond just like, oh, like I don't get bloated anymore and I do my breathing exercises every morning and like this is my life and I take all my supplements and like this is how I'm going to live every day for the rest of my life. It's about how can we have you literally show up to be all that you wanted to be, you want to be, but there's too much fear to access that right now.
Right. Right. Exactly. Exactly. Too much. Yeah, there's just so much fear. And now like there still is some fear, right? Like naturally, of course, like things come up and life can be tough. There are moments that will bring you to your knees, but
Absolutely.
having that like strong foundation of just self-love and self-trust is, I mean, it's unshakable. Like it really is. It's just incredible. I will say another thing that I do like that Kate kind of introduced me to that I had no idea before, even though I had seen numerous therapists, was the parts work.
Yeah.
And then just like we would sometimes do like visualizations, like our inner child, like that, also I thought was really cool.
Mm.
Shout out to that part. Maybe I don't know if Kate, if you want to like speak to it more than I could eloquently.
I mean, parts work is incredible, right? It's about meeting all of these different experiences, emotions, thoughts, even in ourselves as different parts of us. And what I really love about Richard Schwartz's work, who founded IFS, is his book is literally called No Bad Parts. And I was just on a group call earlier today before we were talking on this call, And I was like, if you could take one thing away from this program, like literally one, what I would want you to take away is that there is not a single bad thing inside of you, that literally everything inside of you is trying to protect you. It loves the shit out of you. It wants the best for you. However, it was often formed when you were very young and you didn't have nuance and you didn't have experience. And that doesn't just mean people who have trauma. That also just means literally the fact that children cannot understand things in the same way we can as adults. So they bring in these really fierce beliefs and protection mechanisms and survival mechanisms that are not going to want to budge because they really served us in the past. But when we can start to see that there is not some goblin inside of us that's trying to ruin our lives or self-sabotage, I hate that word, right? That we are actually so loved by ourselves already. And it's about understanding ourselves to access that love, right? And about understanding that our system is working exactly as it was designed to. And now we need to learn to work with it to help it to come to a place where we are happier with how we're moving through the world and feel safer. I mean, to me, you getting there truly emotionally beyond just like me saying that and you're like, okay, whatever, Kate, like, I don't know what that means, but like really getting there is, it just makes me like want to cry of happiness for you because it's just like the best gift that you could give yourself, right?
Most definitely. I mean, it's incredible. Like thinking back to like just a year ago, like I feel like I even like hold like my body differently. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like and people have like seen it too, you know, like and it's really cool when like outside people get to see it, right? Because I can feel it all I want, but like when others start to notice it, like family, friends, coworkers, and they're like, you glow different, and like it is
Mm-hmm.
incredible.
I
It's
love
such a blessing.
I love that. Talk to me then. Well, I get talk to me then, but like tell me about some of the things that you would say to a woman who is maybe thinking about starting this work, knowing that she's probably equally as scared and feeling overwhelmed and just feeling a little bit lost as you were, as if you could talk to her right now. Like, what would you say?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, I guess I would start by saying that that you're worth it, right? That you're worth the extra work, like you're worth a little bit extra money, like just try like one more thing. Like don't shut down, like don't just brush this aside as another one of those like, you know, scams that you see on Instagram that are just trying to get money, you know, like but just try, like just one more thing. Be open, like, you know, look at the testimonials, get
Yeah.
like Kate's Instagram and like I mean even her posts are just like uplifting, like just like seeing like your energy and your like radiance like through a camera, like through a screen, like you can really tell like that there's something special here. There's something different. That this isn't just like you said, a cookie cutter approach, that this does work. That this, you know, is going to teach you the fundamentals of coming back to yourself, like
Mm,
coming back to your true nature of like wholeness.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I think I'll end there.
I think that is like a gorgeous place to end. You are a gift. You've truly been an honor to coach, and it's been incredible to see like the changes that we can really see is like a little more tangible, like more panic attacks to no panic attacks, or you know, things like that. But to get on these calls, and this is really why I like to do these calls with clients, because you cannot put into like a short testimonial video the level of expansion and like depth that you get from this work. It is literally life-changing. And that's what we hear all the time. Like, this program is for life. This program changed my life. This program literally gave me the tools to do whatever I want to do in life and know that I can do it. And to just see you guys get there, because like I've had it for a while, right? That allows me to coach it. And I get so excited every time that you guys get there. It's like, oh my God, it's just like a
Yeah.
so thank you for taking some time today to just talk to me about your experience, to share with clients, to like really meet them where they're at, right? Because you're closer than me to where they were, though I still go through my ups and downs, but it means the world, I know, for somebody, again, whether they join or not, to just be like, wow, somebody got there, therefore there must be a way, right? And that plants the seed to whether it's with my program or some other way, like getting there. And we all freaking deserve to get there.
I did want to say like another huge part of this program that was really, really valuable to me is just like the community aspect, like
Mhm.
getting to connect with other women and like you're on the same path. Maybe you're not exactly like I mean, nobody's ever on the same path, exactly the same path, but like you're kind of on a similar journey, right? You might be in different like stages of the journey. But just knowing that you have like other women there for you who are like in similar boats, and it's just incredible to be there for each other and like cheer each other on. I remember the other thing I was going to say that leads me to the one thing that I really also really love, the one thing, the 100th thing that I really love about this course is that Kate is your hype woman.
Oh,
Oh
I'm so
my
glad
gosh.
you brought this
Like
up.
you are so great. Like even like the tiniest win. So like one thing that Kate, really likes to emphasize is little wins, like every single day celebrating your wins. And at first you're like, this is stupid. Like my win is that I got in the car, drove to the grocery store and didn't freak out. What a win, right? But at the time it is a win, right?
It
And
is
Kate really
huge.
helps you like see that as a win. And that's like again, that's part of like the little tiny shifts that like
Literally reframing your mind to see positivity, right?
right, exactly, exactly. It's like that quote that's like, the ship can turn 1 degree and it'll change their destination by 2,000 miles. That's exactly it. And so Kate, is just truly a hype woman. I just love talking to like you and Emma and all the other women and just like cheering each other on and like making us feel seen and heard. And like it's just what a community. I love
And
it.
I will tell you this too, as a hype woman, I think you can hear it in my voice. Like I am honestly so freaking stoked every time you guys send me
Yes.
something like that because I can see how you're even just attuning to it now. You're even seeing more safety, but also like the fact that that happened means you're literally creating more safety in real time enough for something like that to happen. And it is like, oh, we are the furthest thing from toxic positivity, but it is also just like this like space of absolute celebration and like uplifting and just like to be on group calls and have a woman share like I actually relaxed today for an hour and like everyone's like yeah like hell yeah right after we've all been so go go go. It is just it's a gift because I start as the hype woman and then you see the women go through the program realize it and then they become the hype women for the new women who become the hype women and it's just this like wave of just like oh my God, we're all finally seeing how freaking worth it we are, right?
Just the radiant energy. Like, let's keep it moving. Love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, well, thank you so much for sharing all of this. You can see both of us were like high energy. We were like getting into it. And I
We could
so
talk for hours.
thank you. I know. We just have to set up a second call just to talk about our own stuff. So
Love
we'll
it.
do that.
Love it.
But I so appreciate you being here. I so appreciate you just being a voice, a hopeful voice, for women who are considering this work, this program. It means the world. Like I've literally had women go like, a call like this was what made me make the decision to do it. And she's the woman who is on the other side being like, oh my God, can I now do one of these calls to like help a woman down the line? Right. It's so incredible. And so I just appreciate you. And I'm so grateful to be your coach and your lifelong support and friend. And thank you.
You are amazing. You are just incredible. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.